Today's microscope lesson day. And I'm going to do just a brief overview. I think Ms. Trollo does a good job with you on this, but I'm going to do a brief overview of the kind of scopes we have here and what we'll expect out of you when you use them here in biology class. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that it has a dust cover, and when you leave every day, you leave it with the dust cover back on. That protects all the parts, and it helps us keep up with it during the day when there's so many kids in and out of here. When you carry it, you always grab it by this part here called the arm and put your hand under the base when you walk across. You don't go down through the here trying to sling it around with one arm, because if you knock these objectives out of place, I can fix some things, but I can't fix that, and it will never focus quite right again. So it's very important that we carry it like this, okay, by the arm. Now let's take off the dust cover. You need to put that somewhere out of the way when you're working on it. Now, lucky for you, these are rechargeable, so you don't have to worry about plugging them in. I'll charge them up the night before, and you'll have that to work with when you show up. I'll have those ready for you when you get here. So let's look at some of the parts first. Of course, we have the eyepiece. And the eyepiece, these have a 10, it says 10x. That means 10 times magnification. So just the eyepiece, you get some magnification. And then later we'll talk about these, the objectives, you'll get some magnification. So that makes this a compound microscope. And you'll remember from the slideshow, compound microscope means 2 or more lenses, as opposed to a simple microscope. So we have compound microscopes to work with here in biology lab. Okay, this is the body tube. And then here we have what's called the revolving nose piece. And you can see how it revolves around, okay? And then the arm that helps support it. Then we have the stage, which is where you'll put your specimen you'll be viewing. We have stage clips, and we'll look at their purpose. Of course, they're there to hold down your slide or your specimen, okay? We have a light, and here it turns on the back. And also I want you to notice, if you can see, my setup's not great. A lot of times when we do microscope labs, they go around, oh, I've got a headache, the light's so bright, it's killing me, Miss Brown. Well, you can dim the light here on the side. See how that dims? To make it easier to see and make it easier on you. And also, it has a diaphragm here. I'll turn this. It has a diaphragm, and you can adjust. It has a hole under here and adjust how much light comes through. Okay, and you have to be sure you get it set on the right number so it has an opening there for you. Okay. Also, we have the base. We'll turn the light out here. We have the base, and then we have the coarse adjustment knob and the fine adjustment knob, and we'll get into those purposes in just a second. But first, I'm going to go back to the revolving nose piece. This microscope has 3 objectives. The smallest or shortest one, it has a red band around it. This is called a scanning objective. And just this objective says 4x. So it has 4 times magnifying power. So when you look through the microscope, you have 10 times 4. In math fans, that means I get 40 times magnification with the scanning. Then when you go to the next one, which is called the low power, it's yellow. And that's 100. Because this one's 10 and the eyepiece is 10. So 10 times 10, that gives me 100 times magnification. And then when you move up to the high power objective, it's 40 times 10. So that's 400 times magnification. Okay? So you just multiply this times 10 with this microscope. That makes figuring out your magnification pretty simple on this microscope. Now, these objectives, when you clean them, I will have a special kind of paper. You can't just use napkins or paper towels, especially the school kind. They're so rough. You'll scratch the objectives, the lenses and the objectives, or the lenses on your eyepiece. But I will have this special kind of paper called lens paper available for you. And it has alcohol. It's in a bag of alcohol. So that helps get any grease, and it also serves to sanitize in between when we use it. So please always use lens paper. And that's very important. Now, let's talk about the use of the microscope, actually using it. In this video, we're going to look at what's called a permanent mount slide, and that was in your slideshow that you watch. These things are made, and we use them over and over and over. And I want you to put your objective on the scanning. Now, some microscopes won't have a scanning. They'll just have 2 objectives, but you're lucky you got 3 on yours. And be sure when you're using this, I want you to listen. When you change objectives, it has to click, click into place. If it's in between, you're not going to see anything. You'll be going, Miss Brown, come help me. I can't see anything. And the very first thing I do when kids say they can't see anything, I check and see if it's clicked in. Check and see if their light's on. And the third thing I'll tell you in just a second that I check. So start with your scanning. Okay, let's load. So we're going to look at threads. This is when you're going to look at it in class. Okay, so we put it in. Now these stage clips, they have a little, if I can get this where you can see it a little better, they have this little lever on the back, the way they're made, and you can just drive those things around with your finger any way you want. Here's what we don't want to be doing. This is not a banjo, not music class. Not that I have anything against music class, but it's not music class. Now, your specimen, what you're going to be looking at, is going to have to be under the objective for you to see it. This is the third thing I check when kids can't find anything. Make sure you have it over that hole in the stage. That's where the light shines through, and the objective is trained down on that. So you put it there, and be sure it's there. I've had kids say, Miss Brown, I can't see a thing, and I go and look, and they have their slide, way over here somewhere. Put that specimen right there on top of that hole, and then very carefully put your stage clips on, okay? Now, these knobs are for focus, and there is one sweet spot that's going to focus, because what they do, if you've never used a microscope, see how they change that distance? So what they do is change that distance, and there's only one spot that's going to work correctly, okay? So the best way I teach kids to do this is to rack means move it all the way down, all the way to the bottom. Turn your light on, and then I'm going to be kind of off here, and then have a look. And as you look, and your eyes are going to be a little different than other people's, use the course and come up. So if you start at the very bottom and you're moving up, at some point you're going to hit the sweet spot. You're going to hit the right spot where it's going to be in focus, and you'll see what you're supposed to be looking at. If you don't, you're going to be moving everywhere, and just start at the bottom, and eventually you're going to find the right spot. And when you get there, your eyes may be different than your partner's or different than mine for sure, because my eyes are not that great anymore. And then you'll have to use the fine, and it just barely moves it. Okay. Also, when you focus, you have to remember you can only focus on one piece of depth at a time. If it's a thick specimen, you may have to refocus with that fine knob several times. And we're going to do a little lab where you can practice that to see everything down through that slice. Okay? Now, once you find what you're looking for and look at it in scanning, be sure the specimen is in the middle of that circle. And that circle is called your field of view. Field of view. And be sure your specimen's right in the middle. Because when you turn up the magnification, when you go from 40 to 100, that specimen is going to appear larger, but guess what? Your field of view will actually become smaller. And if you have that specimen off to the side, when you zoom in, when you go up in magnification, you're not going to be able to see it anymore. It'll be outside your field of view. Okay? So when you change your magnification, it changes your field of view, so be sure your specimen is right in the middle. Now you're on low power, and you can use this to go up and down, okay? To get it in focus. Again, you'll probably have to focus it some more because you changed the magnification. Now, when you go to high power, absolutely, I'm going Taylor Swift on you. Never, ever, ever, ever use course adjustment with a high power objective, because see how much longer it is? And you will mess around and break a slide like that. Okay, so we don't want to do that. So use your fine. Never, ever, ever use coarse on high magnification. Okay? So we talked about the parts of the microscope that you're going to be responsible for in your test. And we talked about the basic use. And I showed you a permanent mount slide. Okay? So the next video, I'm going to show you how we make a wet mount slide. And you'll get to practice that in lab.